This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to coverage of Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, live from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario. I'm James White, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Taylor Burris and Michael Podolsek. Cisco Sky Musa, as always, producing tonight's broadcast from his virtual production trailer in the frozen tundra of Chicagoland, or at least soon to. But our attention turns back to the 911 GT3 Cup Cars here. It's a new series of the PCA SRS, and we've got a new member of the booth for tonight. Welcome, Michael Podolsek. It's going to be hard to ask the booth all the questions that you love to when you're actually in it. But how are you doing? How excited are you to be here? And what are you looking forward and what are you anticipating that we're going to see tonight?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. It's really, really exciting to be in the booth for the first time, and it's definitely going to be a new perspective instead of being down on the grid in the thick of things. And right now, we're going to have a very, very exciting race in our hands right now because John Koch is currently on pole in front of William Levesque right now by only a tenth of a second. And with the pace gap between all these drivers, I think we're going to have a very, very exciting battle for the win here. All these drivers are extremely competitive, and I think this is going to be our most exciting season yet.
Should be a lot of fun, I think, Taylor, especially when you consider that this is the first time we've returned to a car that's been used in PCA competition before. Back to the 911 GT3 Cup car that was used in the spring when Series 1 ran. So do you think these drivers have picked up a thing or two with this car since we wrapped everything up at Daytona in the middle of April?
Well, talking to some of the drivers earlier on in the week about this series coming up, some of them are still having to go through practice just to get ready for this race here tonight. Even drivers such as William Levesque said that this car can be a big handful compared to the GTE car that we ran in Series 2. So we'll be interested to see what some of these drivers will be able to accomplish and who can survive at this 10-turn terror of a track.
A 10-turn terror of a track. I'd say more tricky. It's a track that doesn't seem all that complicated on the surface level. When you actually get into it, especially when you consider the elevation changes through, you think that first half of the course, and then I think of the S's coming back up onto the front stretch here. This is a deceptively tricky technical play that really, really makes you work. And if you were curious as to find out where exactly we are in the world, we're up in the Great White North, up in Canada to start Series 3, and not terribly far away from Toronto, the largest city in Canada. Maybe about an hour to the northeast, and you can see you've got all 10 turns in all their glory here, all the crazy corners and the downhill runs through, shall we call them big S's, I suppose, when you look at Clayton Corner, Quebec Corner, all the way up to that hairpin, the Moss Corner, the 5A, 5B, 5C complex before you get to the Andretti straightaway. Then you come up back to the S's and back up the hill onto the front stretch. Not the most complex of laps, but again, deceptively tricky one.
Now, I'm about to say that this track in this car is a very, very difficult indeed. You got speed control is probably the most important thing you gotta figure out here, because with these cars and without any real downforce, these cars still pack quite a punch with that 460 horsepower flat six engine back there, and it's really a case of getting the weight on the front tires, getting the car turned in, especially into turn 3, and also making sure to maintain enough speed to get through the hairpin correctly. it's a real challenge in order to get around this track.
Should be a really challenging, but should be a lot of fun too, especially since we've got two classes to pay attention to this evening, Taylor. We've got the rookie class and then the classes for all drivers beyond rookie D, C, B, and A licenses, all going to be competing against each other for a class championship at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. I like we saw in the past two series. It kind of gives a chance for some of those drivers who are in lower classes a chance to have their own set of glories in a sense. I mean, some of these rookie drivers might not be able to compete for overall wins this season, but they can compete for their own class wins and, of course, a class championship. So it'll be looking very interesting to see what these drivers can do in their own respective classes. And a couple of these new drivers coming in are going to show some great potential, I believe.
Should be a lot of fun to watch that. If you're looking for the rookie class drivers that we're going to be paying attention to this evening in the rookie class, it's R.E. Moore Jr., Colin Thomas, Trey Drawhorn, and Jonathan Waltman. That quartet will represent the rookie class this evening. But up at the front of the field, names that you'll recognize if you've followed Series 1 and Series 2 of the PCA. Don Cook, William Levesque, the Series 2 champion, Preston Wagner, James Hoop, Liam Rodzitis, Billy Smith, who won the Series 1 championship in this very 911 GT3 car. Series 3 has brought out some of the best to come back and compete to close out the year mark.
Like I said before, this is going to be our most competitive season yet. You've got a lot of old drivers from Season 1 who have finally come out to play with the Cup car returning to the PCA Sim Racing Series. Names like Billy Smith, William Yu, and a bunch of other drivers. And then you've got some Season 2 veterans like John Koch and William Levesque actually locking out the front row right now. And it's going to be a very exciting way to see how the RSR drivers are going to adapt to the new Cup car and vice versa.
I think that definitely is one of the most interesting points because the Cup car, the RSR, and the GT3 Cup car are so different, I think, in a lot of ways. And it almost feels like it's a bit more in the driver's hands with the GT3 because you don't necessarily have the high techiness of the GTLM specs that you find with the RSRs. So it definitely requires, I think, a little bit more driving skill to really be able to hustle with things. And especially at a track like this where you're working with elevation changes, it's so easy to lock up the brakes, especially going into the 5A, 5B MoSport complex. Definitely a lot of areas for trouble if you're not watching out.
And speaking of that 5A, 5B complex, every corner after the Continental Bridge, you really got to set up correctly because you got to keep to the inside all the way while carrying sufficient speed through that corner. And if you're out of position for the hairpin, Moss Corner, 5A, 5B, you're going to have a really hard time and screw up your lap. And probably during the race, if somebody makes that error, that might end their race from either spin at best and just wrecking their car at worst.
And also, gentlemen, another thing to keep in mind is going to be that second and third corner of Clayton. Even though it is a bit of a blind corner, it can be due to the fact that elevation drop that we see for these drivers. It is very easy to go off the track as your car will kind of wash up towards the grass. And once you touch that grass with the tires, it is very easy for that car to just snap loose and you are in for a ride into the barriers. So we have to keep an eye on the opening laps to see who can survive going up that section of the course.
You'll have to get on the brakes and then get ready for the elevation changes. It reminds me a lot of Road Atlanta in a lot of ways. Same sort of profile. You're headed in the same direction. The elevation change is a little bit more drastic here than it is in Georgia, but it's that same sort of weird looping corner bottlenecky effect that you tend to get coming off of the first turn into that first main section of the course, the Clayton Quebec complex leading up to Moss Corner. One of those cases where drivers will have to be careful. There's runoff room, thankfully, if drivers happen to get off of the racing surface. It's not like you get funneled in, and if you end up blocking the track, I love the Netherlands Roach level, you end up in huge trouble. But something that could very easily become a big issue, like you said, Tony.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting battle to see what they're going to be able to accomplish here. But I'm looking forward to this race. It's been a while since I've been back behind the booth calling these PCA races. I think it's time to get ready to go.
It is. It's about time to get ready to go as we look at the track map and you see properly where everything is. We talked so much about all of the bits and places, the corners here, and you see everybody coming through the Clayton complex, the Quebec complex, or maybe not necessarily going through the Clayton complex. It's something that you want to make sure you hit during the green flag. But Clayton to Quebec to Moss, that hairpin, probably most famous south of the border for the incident between Casgrall and Austin Cindric 2 years ago. Here, up the end, entry straight, back through the S's and back onto the front straightaway. Not terribly long, but definitely a challenge as we get set to grid everyone up and we get set for the starting grid. We get set for race 1 of Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. John Koch is your pole sitter for this opening race of the season with a qualifying time of 1 minute 18.971 seconds. He's joined on the front row by Series 2 champion William Levache. Gresham Wagner showed a lot of speed in his debut series. In Series 2, he'll start from 3rd this evening. James Huth, PCA SRS veteran, will roll off from the 4th position. 5th will be the 05 of Liam Radzitis. Billy Smith, champion of Series 1 in his number 70 machine, back at it again with this 911 GT3 Cup car. He'll start 6th. John Malia will roll off from the 7th position of the Metropolitan New York region of the PCA. 8th will be the 913 of Leif Peterson. Matthew Kikis out of the Carolina region will start 9th, and 10th will be the 07 of William Yu out of the Los Angeles region.
Starting in 11th will be Michel Levesque, followed by Earl Arts Jr. in 12th. Charles Yao will start in the 13th position alongside Bruce Robinson in 14th. Joseph Stiffel will start in the 15th position, followed by Matthew Mitchell in 16th. 17th will be starting position will go to Michael Neiden, and Carlos Lopez will start 18th. Steven Correglia will start in 19th, and Colin Thomas will round out your top 20.
Dewey Kang will be starting 21st, with Jonathan Waltman starting 22nd. Cameron Leslie will be starting 23rd, with Alex Hellier starting 24th. R.E. Moore Jr. is starting 26th, and Jake Steinbrink is starting 26th. And rounding out your 27 car field for this event is Trey Drawhorn, bringing up the field in 27th.
27 cars to take the grid tonight here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. As we take a look at the track facts briefly before we go green flag racing, this is Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's a 2.459 mile, 3.957 kilometer circuit just outside of the Greater Toronto area in Canada. There are 10 turns here. We're racing in the late afternoon. Current in-sim time is the default iRacing J, May 15, 2019, just about 5:30 p.m. local time. We're going to race for an hour of fun here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And if you're curious, fuel numbers should be fun, should be interesting. Michael, you got to run a few test runs on this circuit not too long ago. What do you think we're going to expect from the fuel consumption of the tire wear from these 911 GT3 Cup cars?
Well, fuel consumption, you start with 9 gallons in the tank. Obviously, as the drivers go around this pace lap, there's going to be a bit of fuel burnt off, but we should be seeing about 18, 19 laps from these cars. Tire wear over the course of an hour, it's just really a matter of how well you can preserve them. I mean, it's a pretty hot track right now, 96 degrees Fahrenheit on track, so these tires might burn off a bit. And it's really a matter of just keeping the car clean, not sliding, not locking up. And I think the more consistent drivers are probably going to favor this car with its increased tire wear.
It'll be an interesting point to note whether or not you end up wearing out the tires more than you do the fuel. But more than happy to have all of you with us here on the iRacing Esports Network as we go green flag racing from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series is underway. Looks like everybody gets through turn 1 cleanly as they make their way to Clayton Corner for the first time. John Koch will lead the field. Big move for William Levesque to try and get underneath them to take the lead away. Not quite there yet. That might bring Gresham Wagner right alongside the 144, but he and the 997 all over each other as they come through Quebec Corner for the first time.
Great battling between those top 5 drivers as Liam Rosita is all over the back bumper of the Series 1 champion Billy Smith as they make the run down into Moss Corner. Rosita tries to take a peek to the inside, can't make it work, almost gets it. A little bit of checkup amongst the top 3 as they come out of Moss Corner.
What isn't exactly the greatest run through Moss Corner for William Levesque, and I think he stacked up a few of the drivers behind him. Had to check out Wagner a little bit. James Huth was stuck behind him. Liam Rodzitis now in the clutches of Billy Smith as they come down the Andretti straightaway for the first time and make their way up into the S's to complete the lap. But wild stuff so far, Michael.
Wow, what a start. I saw William Levesque do that in the prelude race, and he's definitely trying everything he can right now to get past John Koch. We've seen how dominant he was in Series 2, and he didn't get pole this race, surprisingly enough, but I definitely think that that's just giving him more motivation to try and get that lead back and run away with it. But Koch is definitely not going to give it up too easily. Koch, I know, is definitely one of the drivers that adapted very well to the Porsche Cup car. So these two are definitely going to be ones to watch throughout this entire race today.
Talking to William Levesque earlier this week, he said his biggest competitor will be John Koch this season. John Koch was also finished second last season in Series 2, as Levesque was telling me that he's got a certain set of skills that it was quite surprising for Levesque to see. So just seeing this going on right now, and plus adding Gresham Wagner to the mix, this is going to be a very great fight to see all season long.
And then I guess the other big question is, if you're Billy Smith, how do you keep up with these drivers? Remember, Smith was the man who took home the championship in this 911 GT3 Cup car in Season 1, and he's currently only 5th on the board right now, and may well fall to 6th if Liam Rodzitis can make a move. Rodzitis in that 05 sitting right behind the 70 machine and has a lot of pace in his own right. But for the moment, it is John Koch leading William Levesque, but Levesque has been sort of poking his nose, prodding, just trying to find the spot on the racetrack that best suits his car to make the overtake happen, to get the lead. We know that he's going to be aggressive on the front end of these stints. That's what we saw out of him in Series 2, and I expect more of the same in Series 3 as Koch overshoots Turn 1 just a bit and allows Levesque to close on the rear bumper of the 997.
Koch starting to feel the pressure here as he ran wide a bit out of 1, and it's now probably going to be a 3-car fight. I think we're going to start harking back to Season 2, as I think the top 3 are starting to break away a tiny bit from the rest of the pack, and Levesque is now all over the back of John Koch as he's just searching for a hole that isn't there right now. But I think Koch's starting to feel the pressure, and it's only going to be a matter of time before Levesque starts smelling that blood in the water and starts making moves.
You have to believe he's feeling the pressure with the way he overran Turn 1 last time by, and I suspect that might not be the last time we see a mistake like that. But on the flip side, Gresham Wagner has gotten a really good run down the Andretti straight as they come into the S's, and Levesque, I think we know he loves to be aggressive, but he's also going to have to be just as careful to watch his rear view mirror in this case, because if he slips up, Wagner's right there to take an advantage of any sort of mistake that one for forward makes, the same way that Levesque would if Koch decides to slip up again. And as we watch them go through Turn 1, we'll see if Koch is a little bit more conservative on corner exit this time, and not by much, but he at least kept it on the rumble strip, so an improvement over lap 2, but still, you almost get the sense, Taylor, that Levesque might not necessarily be looking to make the pass, might be just trying to pressure Koch into making a mistake to get the lead away.
And also, he could be considering to try to save his tires. That was one of his biggest advantages that he had last season. Season 2 was taking care of those tires as he tried to stick his nose out to the outside as they go underneath the Continental Bridge heading towards Moss. But that was one of his specialties of why he was so dominant, was he knew how to take care of those tires and be able to preserve them to keep up on those long runs. So as they come out of the Moss corner and down the Andretti straight, Levesque trying to back off just a little bit, has about a car length separating him and Koch as they go down, while Wagner's starting to fall back just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but they've all made some time on James Huth and Billy Smith as Levesque now goes to the outside of the S's, and I don't think Koch expected that, and it may give Levesque the opportunity to get the lead here if he drives it in deep here into this one left-hander. Can he make it? Stick on the outside of the right-hander to come across the straightaway. No, he can, and then he gets loose, and that doesn't open up the opportunity for Wagner that I thought it might. I almost thought Wagner was going to follow the hole that Koch had made for himself to get out of that mess, but Wagner had to check up. He was sort of running right in the lane that Levesque got loose in, so they both lose a little bit of time, but they're still much closer to Coke than anyone of Billy Smith and James Huth, who are having their own battle for 4th and 5th as they come through Clayton Corner towards Quebec Corner.
Wow, absolutely incredible stuff from Levesque there. You can definitely see that he's starting to get irritated. He's starting to get very angry that Coke is in front of him, and he wants that lead so badly. You can see it in his driving, and it's probably only going to be a matter of time before he catches back up and does the same thing again. I know how close Levesque and Coke are in pace, and I think right now the pace is in favor of Levesque. He definitely has the toe down this back straight, which is helping, but I think just overall Levesque is going to have the pace over John Coke, at least for this early part of the stint. So it's just a matter of Coke trying to keep his lead, keep the 2 cars behind him, because they already have a pretty safe lead over the rest of the field. So it's going to be interesting seeing how this is going to play out.
Very interesting indeed, as we sort of keep an eye on what's going on between these top 3. We'll slide a little bit further back to take a look at some of these bigger battles and some of these bigger messes. Starting with John Malley and Leon Rodzitis, they run together in the 5th and or rather 6th and the 7th spot at the moment, and having a pretty good little battle of their own. They also have Leif Peterson on the 913 in that group too.
They've been putting on a great battle for the most of the race. They kind of separated just now as they're going through the S's. Ooh, as you see right in front of him, Rodzitis hits a lot of that curbing right there. That's going to cause Malia to get right up on the back bumper as they make the run to White's corner. But I'm surprised that didn't cause him to lose control of that race car when he was going through the S's. So a great recovery from Rodzitis as they come out of White's down into turn 1. Malia, though, all over the back bumper.
They come down the Andretti straightaway, and Malia will be there if Rodzitis, and I think maybe most importantly, if Rodzitis has any damage to the front end. It looks like he's got just a little bit that would slow him down ever so slightly, especially on this Andretti straightaway. Might also affect the way that car handles on corner entry in particular, but something that I think we'll only be able to see develop over a 5 to 10 lap stint, because the damage doesn't look that particularly bad on that car. So something to keep track of as we look a little bit further back in the field. Pretty good battle between Carlos Lopez and Michael Neiden. Those two hammer and tong for 13th and 14th. And then another really good battle back behind them. Colin Thomas, Cameron Leslie, William Yu, Matthew Mitchell, Jonathan Waltman, Dewey Kane. 6 drivers all within about a second of one another and having a lot of fun going after each other at Canadian Tire.
Yeah, I just saw William Yu take an impressive swipe at Cameron Leslie and Colin Thomas, but unfortunately he was just all out of place and didn't make that work. But going back to the battle with John Malia and Liam Rodzitis. Rodzitis, I think with that front aero damage, is going to slow him down on the straights, and John Malia seems to be catching him ever so slightly. Gap's still at about 0.6, but I'm pretty sure that's going to drop as the stint progresses, because yeah, these cars might be durable. They might not be so downforce dependent as like the RSRs, but any aero damage is still going to slow you down the straights, and it's still going to cost you a lot of time.
The problem, though, for Malia that last time by is that he got a terrible exit out of Moss Corner, and it pretty much negated any sort of advantage that he would have over Rodzitis running down the Andretti straightaway. So you're right in that you would think by default, going down that part of the racetrack, he'd have the advantage, but also has to make sure that he crosses T's, dots I's, and nails corner exit out of 5, which may be the most critical exit to nail of any corner on this circuit, just because it sets up that entire run down the Andretti straight, which is far and away the longest part of this course. You're on full throttle there more than anywhere else on this circuit. And you miss the exit to that and cut the apex is too tight, easily that's 2, 3, 4 tenths off your lap time.
Even 2, 3, 4 positions, depending on how many cars are behind you. As we have a battle for the lead heating back up between John Coke and William Levesque. Levesque tried to make an attempt to make the pass, but could not make it work as he is all over the back bumper.
Levesque again still stalking the 997, waiting for an opportunity to make a move. He just hasn't quite gotten there yet. It's still trying to develop in his favor, but it just hasn't quite hit for William Levesque at this time. Credit to Cook. He's managed to keep Levesque at bay, which a lot of people in Series 2 struggled with. Levesque had so much speed in that RSR S-Series champion, but this is a different animal of a race car. We talked a little bit about it, Michael, at the beginning of this broadcast, that you can't drive the 911 GT3 Cup car the same way that you would the 911 RSR.
Yep, you really can't drive this like any car on the iRacing service for that matter, because this car requires such a different style of driving, because any wrong input the car doesn't like, and you're going to have problems. Like, especially on downhill portions like turn 2, you really can't put in that much brake, because otherwise, if you're going too fast, you're going to understeer off. If you put in too much brake input on the downhill, you're either going to lock a front tire or a rear tire, or worse, spin, especially going through turn 5A and 5B. If you're not in the correct position for that part of the track, then you're going to either have an off or a spin. And also through turn 3, which is a heavy trail braking spot, you really can only put about maybe 20-30% brake pressure in order to keep the weight on the front tires, and any more and you're going to lock a tire and run wide and also destroy that tire.
Another thing that I'm noticing, especially with regards to driving style, maybe a little bit more so with Cook than Levesque, but the rear end of that 997 is stepping out on corner entry. Makes me wonder if Cook might be using a little bit too much brake on corner entry, trying to get that car slowed down. As we turn our attention back to Michael Neiden, Carlos Lopez, Colin Thomas, this group here. Thomas, you remember, one of the drivers in the rookie class and currently leading the rookie class at this time in the race, but all within, maybe 2, 3, 4 tenths of one another at best.
Yeah, it's a great battle between these 5 drivers as they're now going into Clayton now, and it's a great battle. A couple of them going side by side, something you don't want to really try to do, and push some effort on that as they go up to Quebec. I say Carlos Lopez really trying to put the pressure on Colin Thomas, but it's not working out for Lopez, as Neiden and Leslie have been battling it out for the past couple of laps as they go down underneath the Continental Bridge and heading towards Moss Corner.
And they come all the way out here. Big, wide, sweeping run for Neiden. As I think that might have been Leslie who tried to come up and get alongside him coming through Moss Corner, but it didn't work out. Leslie cut the corner too short, and that gave Michael Neiden, maybe 4, 5, 6 car lengths down the Andretti straightaway, and instead back Leslie right up into the clutches of William Yu. And then you've also got Bruce Robinson, Matthew Mitchell, Jonathan Waltman all in show if any of them decide to make a mistake.
Now, I was about to say, I was talking about how crucial it was to get the setup for Moss Corner correct, and Cameron Leslie was an example of not getting it right, as he was just too far in the middle of the track and not far enough to the left-hand side, and he had to check up, and William Yu also had to check up, and both of them lost a bit of time to Neiden, Lopez, and Thomas, and they're going to have to do all that work over again before they can rejoin that fight.
As they all make their way through Clayton Corner towards Quebec Corner, trying to sort themselves out. Maybe a chance for Robinson, Mitchell to go at it here, as those two really close to one another. We'll see if they have any. Well, I was about to say that they were close to one another, and then Mitchell almost overdrove the exit of Quebec Corner, so he'll gather it back up, try and get away from Jonathan Waltman, and they'll all come to Moss Corner.
Oh, a big trouble going into trouble of Moss. Carlos Lopez, Cameron Leslie off of Moss, trying to recover, as now here comes more drivers. Bruce Robinson to the outside of Carlos Lopez as Matthew Mitchell watches on, but a big issue for those 2 drivers.
That all started when Lopez got into trouble. He way overshot Moss Corner, got into the tire barrier, and I think Leslie might have been caught just sort of following in line and ended up in big trouble himself and lost a few spots. But Lopez, definitely the driver hurt the most out of that ordeal. He's now back to 17th after starting that last lap in the 13th position, so down 4 from where he was, and Neiden has been the big beneficiary.
Indeed it is, but this battle still rages on, and William Yu now looking very menacing in Neiden's mirrors right now, as he's attempting to find a hole to overtake Michael Neiden. he's getting pretty close to that rear bumper there, and I definitely think it's only going to be a matter of time before William Yu attempts a move on Michael Neiden.
So we'll keep an eye on whether or not Neiden or Yu come together in all this, and if they have a really big scrapper in the corner. Big move from Yu to try and catch up to Neiden coming into Moss corner, but didn't look like he nailed the entry to Moss corner. Almost overdrove that. Gathered up nicely, though, but still not enough to go catch the 71 of Neiden, who, if anything, might be escaping this group and might be on his way towards trying to catch Colin Thomas. He's had a stellar run. He's currently the top rookie, and he's clear Jonathan Waltman, who's second in the rookie class by 7 spots. So Thomas in a league of his own when it comes to the rookie class at this time.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Started far back as 20th position and has gained about 8 spots since the drop of the green flag. So a great run for him, though. But as the battle between Michael Neiden, William Yu, and Cameron Leslie still rages on as they come out of White's corner, those three have been lined up nose to tail once again, as Yu will try to take a peek to the inside going into turn 1. Can't quite close the deal as he goes below those goes below there. Oh, as Neiden gets loose into one, hard into the barrier. Oh, and he also collects Carlos Lopez. Several other cars might be involved with that, but trouble coming out of turn 1.
Big trouble there, and it all was just a matter of Neiden getting loose on corner exit. Couldn't quite hang on to it. Overdrove corner exit. Ended up getting the inside retaining wall, and there was absolutely nowhere Carlos Lopez could have gone. I think it was just those two that were involved in that wreck, but it is almost certainly evening over for Michael Neiden. So much damage to that machine, and a really, really stricken 18 machine of Carlos Lopez, who I think almost certainly has the pit repair flag on, and probably is going to have to sort himself out and dust himself off and come back after it 1 week from tonight. A lot of damage to both cars, but we'll continue on here, keep our tabs on all the battles happening across Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Still no change for the lead after just under 20 minutes of racing. Cook still leads Levesque by maybe a car length or two, and even then that might be a bit generous. Billy Smith hanging out in fourth. He's managed to work himself away from James Hughes. John Malio still pretty close to Liam Redzicis, and then you work your way a little bit further back, and there's still a pretty big battle between Bruce Robinson and Cameron Leslie. But I think with that incident between Neiden and Lopez, it's helped to stretch out that group that was so tightly knit just a few laps ago.
And I was about to say that I think the race is now starting to calm down a tiny bit more. I say calm down as the gap is still about 0.3 of a second, but I think Coke and Levesque have kind of gotten used to each other's company. I don't think either of them are feeling the pressure now, and I think it's just a matter of just kind of biding their time, saving their tires, getting ready for their pit stop, because we're about maybe 3-4 laps away from seeing cars take a trip down pit road. And I think it's just a matter... Oh, and I say that John Coke has just lost it going out of 1, and that handed the lead over to William Levesque, and he's got a good almost second advantage now over Gresham Wagner. So an amazing turn of events for Levesque and heartbreak for Coke.
Almost the same thing that happened to Michael Neiden just a lap ago. Overdrove the exit of turn 1 and got loose on the curves, and all of a sudden was pointed towards that inside retaining wall. And to his credit, Cook tried to spin it out of the way and make sure he didn't end up in trouble, but still a significant amount of right side damage to the 997. And all of a sudden, William Levesque is all on his own in the lead by about maybe a second and change, as you see the replay of what happened to John Cook.
John Coke got a little bit too much curbing on there in the middle of turn 1, and then there you see the car just starts to loop around and unfortunately just slams into the barrier. With that damage to the car, it's going to be difficult for him to recover. Be fortunate if he can finish the race, but with Levesque is able to pull away and actually now starting to work through a 1-lap traffic of Dewey Kang. And Gresham Wagner, though, he's gained a little bit of ground after that incident. Is probably down than less than a second between the two drivers as they go into turn 1. Now down to 1.102 seconds.
Tricky now. There's also a note with Series 3, this being a 5-race series, there are no drops in this, so we consider the impact that that's had for Cook on any sort of championship hopes. Of course, it's only the season opener, but there's not a lot of time to make up those points that will be lost from the damage. If you're going to put together a championship run in this series, I almost think you have to come into this, and you had to come in tonight with the mindset of, I'm going to race clean, I'm going to race consistent, and I might not necessarily take the risk that I normally would if this were a standalone race, because it will have a tremendous knock-on effect with the next four. And if you dig yourself a hole very, very early, it's almost impossible to climb out of it.
And I think, and I definitely think that John Koch has a meatball flag, because I can see from his cockpit that his steering's about 20 degrees to the left, so he's going to be in the pits for quite a while. But right now, taking a look back to the front, and I think it's now just going to be a high-speed game of chess between William Levesque and Gresham Wagner, because there's about a second gap in favor of Levesque, and that might close, that might open, depending on how hard these drivers want to push. The problem is, if you push too early or too hard, you're just going to roast your tires, and you're going to have absolutely no answer to any moves that the driver behind or in front is going to do. So are they just going to maintain that gap? Or are they just going to chill for the last 38 or so minutes and then maybe fight it out in the last 10 minutes or so, as William Levesque works his way around the lap traffic of R.E. Moore Jr.? Who knows? It's going to be a very interesting race to battle out, and especially the lap traffic. It's also going to be a matter of how cleanly both drivers can navigate the traffic.
I think this is a bit of a weird place when it comes to navigating lap traffic, because even though the actual width of the circuit doesn't change all that much, it seems like depending on what corner you're in, it can be really easy to get around some of the lap traffic here at Canadian Tire. And there are other places, Moss Corner in particular, where you can end up in a lot of trouble and you get stuck behind somebody, as Gresham Wagner nearly got into R.E. Moore, as we wait to see if drivers are going to make the run to pit road yet. Not quite, but we would expect them to come in the next few laps or so, as we turn our attention back to this battle of John Malia and Liam Rodzitas for 5th and 6th that has been rolling since the drop of the green flag.
Well, one of the front runners has decided to come down pit road. That's James Huth. He was in the 4th position, running a great race for most of this race, just being quiet there. But back to that battle between Rodzitas and John Malia. Those two separate about a few car lengths as they come up to Clayton Corner, doing a great job. As we see Malia get a little bit wide right there, has to get it back down to the bottom of the racetrack to try to see if he can set up for Quebec. He lost a little bit of time right there, but still holding strong in that position, while Billy Smith will move up into the 3rd position with all of this incidents going on.
Ooh, he's a crossover into the second third of this race, already 20 minutes underneath our belts at Canadian Tire. We'll remind you that if you want to get behind the wheel and join the fun, you can go visit simracing.pca.org and click on the 2-part series Getting Started in PCA Sim Racing at the bottom of the website. Once again, that's simracing.pca.org. And I don't know, Taylor, we may or may not know somebody who might have put together that little document, might have done a pretty nice job with it. Although, to be fair, I couldn't quite tell you who.
I couldn't quite tell you who either on that matter. So I had to maybe do a little research on that.
Maybe. I wonder, Michael, would you happen to know who was responsible for that document?
I don't know. Apparently, it's someone from the PCA. Search continues.
Huh. So PCA members helping PCA members. Not the first time we've heard about that one now, have we? As Leif Peterson and John Malia had come down pit road for service. So those, not a huge surprise to see them together. Meanwhile, William Yu trying to work on James Huth, who's already come down pit road for the first time. We would suspect that Yu's probably not terribly far removed from his first pit stop, as we see most of the drivers here sitting on 17, 18, 19 laps. And we see some of these drivers come in. Charlie Yao has come in for service this time around, as has Matthew Kikas in the 15 machine.
Indeed. And also, you can short pit in this series because, unlike Season 2, Season 3 has no fuel limit. And these cars apparently can run for more than an hour on a full tank of fuel without needing to refuel. However, with the starting 9-gallon fuel limit, you will have to anyway. But timing your pit stop is really, really important, because if you short pit, take on a bit more fuel as to try and get some clean air. And as we see William Levesque, the race leader, coming into the pits. So I think we're going to be seeing pretty much everybody who has not pit into the pits now. And as I say that, Gresham Wagner is the only person that hasn't pit yet. So I wonder if he's actually going to have enough fuel to make it around one more time. As I was saying before, though, really timing your pit stop is essential, because if you pit at the wrong time and exit out into traffic, you're going to lose so much time trying to fight your way past the traffic, and you might lose a huge amount of time to your rivals.
And that there's something to be said about trying to make sure that you short pit the drivers ahead of you to gain a little bit of time, but at the same time, making sure that you don't come down pit road and leave yourself in a situation where you're stuck behind lap traffic. And as we look at what William Levesque has done in that regard, absolutely nobody near him on the racetrack. He's got about 3 or 4 seconds to go to Cameron Leslie in the 8th. That's the first car ahead of that 144. So very good job by Levesque to make sure that he got back out onto the racetrack in clean traffic. And now all eyes will turn to the number 5 machine of Gresham Wagner, who we have to believe is probably coming down pit road now as he does make that harder right turn onto pit lane here at Canadian Tire, and will get 4 tires and fuel for the first time tonight.
Another driver also coming in pit road is Liam Rositas. He is also one of the other drivers who decided to stay out 1 extra lap. So all eyes will now turn to William Levesque, as he is going to be coming around the corners here, coming through the S's and gaining ground, as he will come out and possibly beat the top 2 who are currently leading right now. So waiting to see where Gresham Wagner is on his pit box stop. Still finishing up his fueling, as we're now waiting to see where Levesque will come out right now, as he will be probably our new race leader, as here he comes passing Gresham Wagner.
Not by much, though. Wagner did a very nice job of maintaining the gap. They were pretty much identical on pit entry and exit and through their pit cycle laps. And if anything, I almost would say that Wagner might have gained a little bit of time on Levesque. As Levesque is sliding around a little bit, Wagner doing a nice job on the tires that are still warming up. Actually has brought it within, so maybe a car length and a half or 2. So very good stuff by Gresham Wagner to get back out onto the racetrack and not lose too much time to Levesque. He should have a pretty good shot at challenging that number 144 as they cycle through to the race lead in second once again. But lap traffic also in the way. Cameron Leslie right there. And I suspect that Levesque and Wagner will try and get a tow down the Andretti straight, at least for a bit, until Leslie pulls over and lets the 2 leaders go by.
So with no more fuel saving, because no fuel limit, I think we're in for quite a bit of a treat here, because we're going to see pretty much a half an hour brawl between these 2 drivers. With no other drivers behind them to worry about, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of daring moves from these 2 drivers, especially as the time ticks down, because they don't really have a huge amount of time, and this track's pretty difficult to overtake on. We've seen a lot of daring moves from Levesque at the start of this race, and we might see some from Gresham Wagner.
One of those cases where, if you're looking at this, you've got maybe, 30 minutes and change of time to take care of here at CTMP. But more importantly, this run is going to go longer because there isn't a fuel limit, like you said, so you don't really have to worry about fuel. But you will have to worry about tire conservation a little bit more on this run than you did the last, because you are going to run maybe an extra lap or 2 on this compared to the first run of tonight's race. Everybody all coming in somewhere between the 35 to 30 minutes to go mark of this race. So, Taylor Burris, can you handle the extra lap or 2 on those 4 tires? That might be the big question to watch in the second half of this race.
That will be who will be patient, who will take their time, save their tires for those extra final couple of laps when we get close to the end of this race. We've seen William Levesque do quite well with that. Gresham Wagner, though, will he be aggressive enough to try to make Levesque use up his tires, so that way it's going to be difficult for Levesque to keep it on the track? Or will some other drivers who are a little bit further back save their tires, so that way when Wagner and Levesque are still battling hard, wasting their tires away, will these drivers start to gain a little bit of ground as the laps and time continues to wind down?
And we have hit the midway point just a few seconds ago. So, 2 points to make as we've hit midway in this race. First, we have a new award for Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. It's the Hard Charger Award, sponsored by AL Racing Simulators. And that will go to the driver that has gained the most positions relative to their starting spot during the race. Winner of the Hard Charger Award also will pick up a $50 prize from our friends at AL Racing Simulators. So pay attention to the end of the broadcast. We'll let you know who the Hard Charger is when we go through the full field rundown. But as always, it is now time to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway race break as we cross the halfway portion of this race. And as always, it's brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing for the Australian Supercars, the Cars Tour, right here on the Podium Esports Network, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. After 31 minutes of competition, William Levesque, Series 2 champion in the 144, back on the top of the totem pole after one half of one race of Series 3. Gresham Wagner trailing not by much. He's within half a second of the 144 in that number 5 machine. Billy Smith, the champion of Series 1, has made his way up into the 3rd position. James Hugh sits in 4th as it stands, closely followed by the 690 of John Mallia. It would also help if I could actually pronounce some of these names. Leif Peterson in the 913 machine, currently sitting in the 6th position, 7th, and bouncing all over the racetrack off the curbs there as they come through Moss Corner, is the 05 of Liam Radzitis. William Yu out of the Los Angeles region of the PCA runs in the 8th position. 9th belongs to the 15 of Matthew Kiggis. 10th, currently held down by the Coastal Bend region driver, the number 17, Charlie Yap.
Currently in the 11th position, the highest running out of the rookie drivers, Colin Thomas in that number 23, followed by Dewey Kang in the number 32 Porsche in 12th position. Jonathan Waltman, who is now 2nd in the rookie class in running 13th overall, and then 14th will be Earl Arts Jr., as he will be the last car one lap down. The first car to be one lap down is the 8 of Cameron Leslie. He's running in the 15th position, followed by Jake Steinbrink in 16th. Matthew Mitchell, he's lost a position at the start of the race. He has dropped down to 17th, one lap down, followed by Joseph Stiffel in 18th. Michel Levesque, the father to our race wheeler, William Levesque, he is currently running in 19th, and Robert Moore is currently sitting in 20th.
And in P21, unfortunately out of the race, is Bruce Robinson, along with John Koch in P22, also out of the race. Trey Drawhorn is in P23 after taking extensive repairs. That Porsche is still looking a bit battered up, but he is still in the running, so he should move up to P21 eventually. P24 is Michael Meiden, then Carlos Lopez, Alex Hellier, Stefan Cugliari, and that rounds out your 27-car field for this event.
The season opener of Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. This will conclude tonight's iRacing Midway race break. With over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original esports racing game. And for more information, you can visit iRacing.com today. So it is still William Levesque at the front of this field, and he has opened up the lead a little bit more since we've gone through his place in this iRacing Midway race break. Now up to about a second over Gresham Wagner. We'll roll a little bit further back to the field. A few battles to make note of. 4th and 5th, James Hughes and John Mallia are within a second of one another, as are Leif Peterson and Liam Radzitis for 6th and 7th. Seems like we've called that quartet of names together a lot tonight. And then a little bit further back, Jonathan Waltman and Earl Arts Jr. coming together, 13th and 14th. They're within about a half second of one another. And also of note here, Earl Arts making his debut in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series tonight. He comes in from the Central Pennsylvania region of the PCA. For any of you living in south central Pennsylvania, anywhere around the Harrisburg area in particular, stretching a little bit east towards Lancaster County, and you get a little bit towards Dutch country in that way. But in either case, you have a representative. I believe Earl Orts might be our first competitor from the central Pennsylvania region of the PCA across all 3 series of the PCA SRS. So good to have more places of the Keystone State represented. We've had a lot of the Keystone State represented pretty well. I know Colin Thomas in this race comes from the Allegheny region, which covers most of the Pittsburgh area. We've had a lot of the Reason Total drivers come in for the Philadelphia region and places elsewhere at the Keystone State, Michael. So a lot of people that come in and do a lot of good stuff for the PCA and PA, and not terribly far away from your neck of the woods in New Jersey.
Indeed. There's actually not a huge amount of drivers from the northern New Jersey region. So far, I'm the only northern New Jersey driver. Northern New Jersey drivers, if you're listening in, let's try and change that. Get a bit of northern New Jersey pride on the grid. As we see Earl Arts work his way around Jonathan Waltman up into P13. So brilliant move for Arts there, as both drivers give each other plenty of space there, as he is now probably going to be able to waltz away from Jonathan Waltman.
I don't know if the pun was intended there or not. Well played either way. But in either case, I'll remind everyone that if you hail from the northern New Jersey region, or if you hail from any other region of the PCA and you want to either back up Michael and add a little bit of northern New Jersey pride, or add the pride of your own region and compete in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, all you have to do is first be a PCA member, and second, log on to simracing.pca.org. That's where you'll find all the information for Series 3 registration forms. You can jump in at any time and join the action here and be featured on the broadcast of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series here on the iRacing Esports Network. We turn our attention now to Joseph Stiffel, who currently runs in the 16th position, but it might not stay that way for long because Jake Steinbrink coming very, very close to the rear bumper of the 003. Steinbrink in that 46 machine beginning to try and close in on Stiffel, who has a bit of front-end damage to his machine and might be a little bit hurt as they come down the Andretti straight, so this might open up an opportunity for Steinbrink to have some sort of attempt to pass coming up to the S's, making his way back towards the start-finish line.
Yeah, but we got to remember what happened earlier with some drivers who even had nose damage was able to get better runs out of Moss. And as we saw, Steinbrink did not get that good of enough run to where he was able to close that gap between him and Stiffel. As they're now coming out of White's corner, Stiffel still holding strong as he cuts a little bit through the grass coming off corner exit, but is still able to maintain his position as they go into turn one. Steinbrink doing a great job trying to recover and pull back up to the back bumper of Joseph Stiffel, but still not close enough as they go into Clayton.
A Midwestern battle between these two. Stiffel hailing from the Chicago region, covering the Chicagoland area. So I'm surprised Cisco hasn't given me any sort of rah-rahs in my ear yet, because we know how much he does love Chicago hot dogs and Lou Mamadi's pizza and all that. And then Steinbrink comes from the Ohio Valley region of the PCA, which follows that run right along the Ohio River. Comes right along the southern part of Ohio, touches into the southwestern parts of West Virginia. Think of the Ironton and the Huntington areas, both represented by that region, and a lot of folks there in the Midwest covered by those two PCA regions. And you got two drivers to cheer for here as we work our way into the final third of this race. Closing up on it now, we are about 45 seconds away from entering the final 20 minutes. This season opening event for Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
And as we take a look back to the front of the field, and I think the gap is starting to close slightly through these past few laps. Last time at the line, Gresham Wagner was only 6/10 behind William Levesque. I think he's starting to push now, but I think that gap's now opened back up to about 8/10 now. So I think things are starting to get a little bit heated between these two drivers, and it's only going to be a matter of time before either this gap is maintained or they start converging and really start making moves on one another.
one of those things that we'll have to watch out for over the course of the final 20 minutes or so. And oh, by the way, in case you thought we had forgotten, don't worry, because within the next few minutes, we're going to go grab our favorite feathered friend for our first trivia question of this Series 3 of the PCA SRS. Grasshopper Wagner still trying to run down William Levesque. Leif Peterson and Liam Rudzitis, though, probably the best battle on track at the moment, so we'll go there 6th and 7th. So they work their way through the S's, back onto the front stretch, back across the start-finish line.
Leif Peterson did a great job last season in that GTE, running some incredible runs and some fuel conservation modes during this race. Of course, with the no fuel limit, it's going to be a little bit more different for him to see how he can drive. And so far, doing a great job currently holding on to that 6th position as he gets a little bit loose through Clayton right there as they get ready to go into Quebec, but is able to hold on. Rudzitis gets a great run through there as they climb up to Quebec and get ready to make the turn downhill in underneath the Continental Bridge. Rudzitis trying to find a way to poke his nose into the inside or the outside. Under the bridge they go to head towards Moss. This track right here is going to be so difficult to see what Rudzitis can do. He's had some issues all night long, but he dives into there, tries to see if he can make it stick. So far he does. Coming out of there, gets loose though. That's going to cost him a little time on Leif Peterson as they go down the Andretti straight.
It was a great entry for Rudzitis into Moss Corner. The sort of wider, higher arc has tended to be the faster one throughout the night. That's one thing I've noticed watching these cars travel through the 5A, 5B, 5C complex. And I thought he had a chance to really make something happen down the Andretti straightaway, but he couldn't get off of 5C the right way and spun the tires just a little bit, and it cost him all the momentum that he had. But looks like he might have the pace on Leif Peterson as it stands, because he's managed to gain most of the ground that he lost in just about a half a lap. So certainly something I'll be keeping an eye on within the next few laps, because I think that Peterson genuinely has a chance to rather Rudzitis has a chance to get around Peterson and take over the 6th position.
Indeed, this is going to be a classic North versus South battle. Liam Rudzitis hailing from the Upper Canada region and Leif Peterson from the Maverick region. And is Rudzitis going to get a good run out of the hairpin, out of Moss? He gets a little bit loose under the brakes there, but he seems to be using all of the track, and he doesn't seem to be closing up that much time on Leif Peterson, so he might have lost the opportunity, and the door might start to be closing for Rudzitis to be doing anything. He still has the draft of Leif Peterson, but is he going to have the pace to eventually close up to him and make that move again?
You know that Liam Rudzitis would love to put in a good performance here, this being not only his home region, but the home region for the Upper Canada folks that are watching this broadcast. They've been long time fans of the PCA SRS, and I know they know this track very, very well. It's right in their backyard, and is, I believe, technically speaking, the region that is represented by this circuit within the PCA. So definitely a little bit more pride, I think, at stake for Rudzitis in this one. And for Peterson, too, to keep up the Maverick name. We know that the Maverick region, one of the fastest in the Porsche Club of America. And Billy Smith, Season 1 champion, hails from there. He's also got a top 5 run going at the moment. So a lot of speed out of those drivers from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and I know they want to keep that going throughout Series 3.
They're going to try their best right now, as we talked about. Billy Smith, our Series 1 champion, holding strong inside the top 5, while Leif Peterson trying to see if he can find a way to close the gap up to the 5th position, as he's currently holding on to 6th. Going to be a tall order, though, to catch up to John Malia, as he's about a little under 10 seconds up the road from Malia. And so he's going to have a little bit of work to do for this driver, but still holding strong over the Canadian driver of Liam Rudzitis.
We'll flick through the chat and make note of a few folks that are here that have given their shout outs to some of the drivers participating in tonight's race. First, a big hello to Katie Baker and the Matthew Kikas clan out of the Carolina region, officially out of Raleigh, North Carolina, the state capital there, and home to the North Carolina State We know Kikas loves to run the colors up on his machine. And also Trey Drawhorn, too. Drawhorn running in the rookie class out of the PCA, running in the 22nd position at the moment as we ride along with Gresham Wagner and see if we can hunt down William Levesque within these final few moments. But good to see that we've got a lot of fans here within chat as it's getting tighter between the 5 and the 144, and it got way, way tighter as Wagner went through the grass coming up through the end and ran into some sort of trouble there. Not a surprise to see lap cars causing issues every once in a while, and there was just nowhere from Gresham Wagner to go.
Yeah, it definitely looked like that Gresham Wagner was pretty much done for as soon as Levesque attempted the move. There was absolutely nowhere for him to go other than probably just to slam on the brakes, which he did. So credit to him. And unfortunately, that's just the way things in racing go sometimes. And as an old multi-class adage goes, what traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. And this might have been the final nail in the coffin for Gresham Wagner. We've seen how similar both drivers have been on pace all throughout this event, but I'm not sure if Gresham might have the speed in him to close that gap. It's going to be a matter of time before we see how this race is going to play out. There's still plenty of traffic up ahead for them to overtake, and it's just going to be how well both drivers are going to be able to get around the traffic safely and cleanly.
Levesque has opened up his lead to 2 seconds now on Wagner, but more importantly, Wagner's got all that damage to the left front of his number 5, so that will slow him down significantly coming down this Andretti straight that they're working right now, and will hamper him throughout the final 15 minutes change of this race. So as we have seen that play out, we have called upon our feathered friend, and I turn to Taylor Burris now to do us the honors, as always.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to cue the Chuck.
As we bring you tonight's Check the Duck trivia question for the first time here on the iRacing Esports Network in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series Season 3. As always, the rules before we participate. First is that employees and contractors of Podium Esports LLC are ineligible to participate. Second, only the first response from participants shall be counted. You get 1 response per person per broadcast, and any responses after your first will be deleted in chat. Tonight, we are playing for Chuck's Undying Love and Affection for the next week until we get back at it with the PCA SRS. And we thought in this case, that normally we're not necessarily big on being homers, but to give a nod to the man who's joined us in the booth for the first time, and also in recognition of the speed that he's shown in Series 1 and Series 2, we thought we'd give him a trivia question all about Michael Polasek. And tonight's trivia question asks our audience, what is Michael Polasek's preferred driver number? You can name the number that he likes to run with on his cars. You get a shout out in chat, shout out on the broadcast. You get Chuck's Undying Love and Affection for a week. We get back at it with the PCA. So punch in your answers in chat and we'll see who comes away the victor.
And just for a little hint too, it's also my favorite number as well.
We'll see how late we get into the broadcast. I've got about 3 or 4 hints that I've already thought of over the course of this evening that we could bust out, but we'll see how quick the chat is to jump in and get the number right. So we'll keep our eyes peeled to see if there are any changes there, and keep our eyes peeled throughout the rest of this field in the final 10 minutes or so of this race to see if there are any other good battles. And maybe no surprise that Lee Peterson and Liam Rositas are still attached nose to tail, but John Malia also pretty close to James Hughes.
Indeed, that battle between Malia and James Hughes is going on quite strong right now as they came out of Moss Corner down the Andretti straightaway. Malia's trying to utilize the slipstream in front of him to try to close that gap, but Hughes doing a great job just trying to avoid it, to break the draft as they go down into the S's. Hughes doing a great job just hugging the curbing as best he can to try to get the best corner exit off as they go into whites.
Doing a very, very nice job as they come back up onto the front straightaway and they sort themselves all out in a row here. You've got Hugh, you've got Malia, and then you've got, I believe that's Orange Jr., the lap machine there coming through. But again, a really solid debut for the 61 machine in the PCA SRS. As we turn our attention back to Liam Radzitis, who again is trying to work over Lee Peterson and got a really good run, working his way through Clayton Corner. Got close, but he couldn't quite get alongside that I-13, but that might change coming into Quebec.
Yeah, Liam Radzitis absolutely sent it through turn 2, and is he going to attempt to move around the outside? He gets a little bit loose, and he's not going to get it done. Daring stuff from the 05 as he is all over the back of that 913 car. And wow, that was some seriously impressive stuff as he's going to attempt the same run, gets a little bit wide, and he might have not gotten as optimal of a run. Those two wheels on the grass absolutely didn't help, so Leif Peterson's position is safe for at least this lap or so, as Radzitis is probably starting to get a bit frustrated, starting to get a little bit irritated that he hasn't found a way around the 913 yet. So with only 8 minutes to go, it's pretty much do or die time for the 05 car, and it's going to be a matter of how badly he wants it.
Watching these two battle each other throughout the course of this race, if there's one spot where the difference is being made, it's absolutely the exit of Moss Corner onto the Andretti straight. And it's a point that we made earlier in the broadcast. How if you get that exit right, it gets you an extra 2 to 3 tenths. That's exactly what Leif Peterson has consistently been able to gain on Radzitis on corner exit out of that spot of the racetrack all night long. Last time around, Radzitis' exit was a little bit better than it's been in past laps, so I think he's learning a little bit of Peterson's line and taking notes and applying it to his own line, but it still hasn't quite been enough, and now there are only 8 minutes left for Radzitis to make a move.
He's going to have to try to do everything that he can now as they climb back up into Moss. Still a little bit of gap between them. As you see, Peterson gets a little bit loose coming off Moss Corner right there. That's going to make the mistake. That could open the door for Radzitis. Side by side they go down the Andretti straight. They're going to still be side by side as Radzitis tries to push him down just a little bit, try to side draft just a bit to pull him back, but that's not going to really work as they go down. Leif Peterson still holding on by his nose as they go into the braking zone for the S's. Who's going to be the bravest one? Radzitis on the outside, Peterson on the inside. Peterson now has the advantage as they go into the next half of the Whites. Still, Radzitis pushes on as they go into White's corner, coming off the final corner. Here comes Radzitis on the outside and pulls up and takes over the 6th position.
What a move from Radzitis to get that done on the outside. We saw William Levesque pull something a little bit earlier to take the race lead away, and now it is Radzitis up to 6th, Peterson up to 7th, and finally the 05 has managed to make that happen. You have to believe that Radzitis is so relieved to finally pull that one off. Meanwhile, we have a winner in tonight's trivia question, and Jacob Sheen was the first man to nail it down. Number 45 is the number that our dear friend Michael Polisek likes to race with. So congratulations to Jacob. Enjoy Chuck's undying love and affection for the next week. He's quite the romantic, to be fair. And we look forward to seeing all of you next week when we come back here on the iRacing Esports Network for more of Chuck's favorite trivia questions. As Peterson really tried to send it through Moss Corner that last time by and lost a ton of time, got way loose, had the rear end step out from way underneath him, and that gap that was maybe 2 to 3 tenths of a second not too long ago, now all the way up to almost 2 seconds and probably more as Peterson struggles to catch lap traffic in the right spots, coming up through the S's back out of the front stretch.
Yeah, I think we can say, Radzitis got a tiny bit of a twitch there. I think that battle is pretty much done and dusted. All that Radzitis has to do is just keep the car on the asphalt, keep the car on the gray stuff, not have the car break away from underneath him, and he's got P6 locked down. That's very decent points going into the first race of this season. Meanwhile, however, at the lead, the gap is pretty much staying the same at 2.5 seconds, and I think this race for the front, that might be race over, and all that William Levesque has to do is just keep the lead and keep this car away from Gresham Wagner, and he's got this. He's got probably fresher tires, a better, cleaner car than the likes of Gresham Wagner, And I think that's pretty much all he needs in order to just walk away from this race with the gold medal in hand.
Well, one Levesque seems like he's got a pretty easy go of it at the moment. Another Levesque is in an absolute dogfight a little bit further back in this field, and that would be Williams' father, Michel, who's all over the 003 of Joseph Stifel, trying to wrest away that 16th position late in the going. Under 5 minutes left to go in this opening race of the season for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 3.
Yeah, Michelle is trying to close up on Joseph Stifel as they go into the S's. It's going to be quite a bit of a gap, though, between the two drivers as they go to the second half of the S's, setting up for White's corner. Looking, though, at their times, Levesque is running some very consistent ones. I ran a little bit faster that last time as they come out of White. He was able to gain quite a bit of ground there as they come across the start-finish line. Levesque ran a 20.72. Stifel ran a little bit faster that time with a 20.25, so Stifel must have realized he needs to start gaining a little bit of speed right now. Otherwise, he will have the father of William Levesque be able to make that pass and complete the position to move on up through the field. And then, of course, looking on to our rookie class leader, I wanted to take a look at and see how he's doing. Colin Thomas, still pretty much all by his lonesome, running and holding that 11th position and doing a pretty good job.
Really, really awesome run for Colin Thomas, who not only leads the rookie class at the moment, but currently is in position to get the AL Racing Simulators Hard Charger Award. Started in 20th, currently sits in 11th. That's up 9 spots from where he started. Next closest person, Jake Steinbrink, who started 26th, currently sits in the 18th spot. So Steinbrink, if he could catch Michel Levesque and make the pass, at least would have a foot in the door. But right now, Colin Thomas very, very well placed to take that over.
Indeed. Colin Thomas has been doing an exceptionally great job this first race. And as I say that, oh no, he has just lost it at Moss and has slightly tagged the barrier there, so he's going to lose a tiny bit. He's going to lose a lot of time, and it's going to fall into the clutches of Dewey Kang and Earl Arch Jr. So we're probably going to have a probably very desperate last lap battle between Dewey Kang and Colin Thomas. Thomas, though, has overheated tires from that slide, so that might swing the advantage in favor of Dewey Kang as they work their way into these next corners. As Kang is looking, but it's not there, so he's gonna have to back off, give a bit more space to Colin Thomas. So he's a bit out of shape for the second to last corner in this final corner. As we're gonna see we're probably in for a last lap treat here between these two drivers.
And all of a sudden, we're in a huge fight for that Hard Charger Award because Dewey Kang also is up 9 spots from where he started. Started tonight in the 21st position, currently runs in 12th. If he can get around Colin Thomas, then he would be the winner of the Hard Charger Award tonight. So all of a sudden, you're nose to tail and there are $50 on the line. I'd like to think that for this last minute and change, you'd be pushing pretty hard.
He is going to definitely try to push hard as they come down underneath the Continental Bridge towards Moss Corner. Let's see if Colin Thomas is going to be a little bit more smoother through there, not make any mistakes. Dewey Kang gets in a little bit deeper into the corner. He's going to try to close that gap. Who gets the better exit off turn 5, Moss Corner down the Andretti straight? So far, it looks like Colin Thomas will be able to hold on and pull down the back straightaway here. Dewey Kang, though, in the slipstream of Colin Thomas, down the Andretti straight another time as we are closing in on the final 2 minutes of the race now. Into the SSA go. Colin Thomas holding a great line, but Dewey Kang late into the braking zone, try to get to the back bumper.
No more than 2 laps left. Under a minute left on the clock. I think we might get another lap in before we get the checkered, but no more than 2 left in this race as Thomas and Kang race nose to tail for the Hard Charger Award. Pretty good debut for AL Sim Racing to have a battle like this at the very end of 60 minutes.
Got a situation here. John Malia coming down pit road. Is he out of fuel, perhaps?
Maybe. In either case, though, Malia will fall from that 5th spot. Probably is going to lose a little bit more time. We'll see just where he falls in the pecking order of things, but probably won't fall too far. He's got a pretty good buffer, and William Yu is the last man on the lead lap, so he wouldn't fall any much further than that. But all eyes now on William Levesque as he actually is going to finish this off right here, right now, and be done with it, I suspect, as Levesque comes across the start-finish line to win Series 3, Race 1 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series with a little bit too much drift there right at the end of it. The only mistake he's made all night to just send it a little bit too far. And we will return our attention now to that battle between Thomas and Kane because these two racing for $50 in the AL Sim Racing Hard Charger Award of the race. One more corner left for these two to navigate. Is Kane going to try and send it in there? He won't. And Colin Thomas will come across the line, both as the winner in the rookie class and the winner of the AL Sim Racing Hard Charger Award for this first race of Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Wow, what a final lap battle we saw there. Dewey Kang doing everything he could to try and get past Colin Thomas, but in the end, I think Thomas just had the composure and had the overall pace over Dewey Kang and was able to hold him back for those final 2 laps when he absolutely needed to. So big props to him for winning the Hard Charger Award and finishing P11. As we see William Levesque doing driving backwards around the track to celebrate his first win of PCA Sim Racing Series 3.
I feel like that's even more impressive in some ways than what you'd see with our friend Alan Kowicki there, probably looking down at the sky, smiling on this. And he's got some company here, too, it looks like, in the form of Liam Radzitis, who can celebrate a top 5 in the 05 at his home track and come away, I think, very impressed and very happy with his run tonight at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I think just about everybody crossed the start finish line for the last few folks to make sure they're all in good shape. But we've got everybody, so it's now time to bring home our full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished this evening. William Levesque, another race win for Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, this time over Gresham Wagner in the 5. Billy Smith returns to PCA action with a podium finish, comes home third in front of James Hughes and Leon Ranzitis, who gets it done for the Upper Canada region, a top 5 for the Upper Canada region driver in the most famous track of the Upper Canada region of the PCA. Home turf for him, so he'll be happy with that run. John Malia finished in the 6th spot of the Metropolitan New York region. William Yu out of the Los Angeles region finished in 7th. Leif Peterson, the Maverick region driver, finished in 8th. It was the Carolina region's Matthew Kikis in 9th. And Charlie Yao of the Coastal Bend region finishing in 10th.
Winner in our rookie class, Colin Thomas. He'll come home 11th after getting basically a spin win for his class, having to battle with Dewey Kang for that Hard Charger Award. Dewey Kang will come home in the 12th position. Earl Arts Jr. will come home in 13th, followed by Jonathan Waltman in 14th. Cameron Leslie come home in the 15th position after starting in 23rd, so a good run for him. Michel Levesque will come home in 16th. Joseph Stiffel will come home in the 17th position, followed by Jake Steinbrink, as he will finish 18th, 2 laps down. Matthew Mitchell will come home in 19th, and Robert Moore Jr. will round out your top 20 as he will finish 3 laps down.
6 laps down is Bruce Robinson in 21st. 22nd, we have Trey Drawhorn, then John Koch, Michael Neiden, Carlos Lopez, Alex Hellier, and Stefan Cugliari rounding out your 27 car field that took the green flag today.
There's your full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished. And time to bring up another time-honored tradition, it seems, here on the iRacing Esports Network with the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. We now bring in your race winner, William Levesque, who gets it done once again. But I feel like this might have been the hardest one of the bunch to pull off, just because for the first third of this race, you were not in control of it. You were near the front, but you had to work and had to hustle and push and really go after John Koch and then hold Gresham Wagner at back.
Yeah, I mean, my Q lap, maybe it wasn't the best, but it was pretty close. And I mean, you saw the gap, so it was literally nothing. And the first part of the race, it took me a couple laps to figure out John's breaking points and such. Hence the turn 2 that was probably a little bit too exciting. And yeah, I made an attempt to pass him, but it's so hard to pass here. And when you end up on the outside of the last corner, it's off camber and the car doesn't stick. So I almost lost the place to Gresham there, but managed to hold that. And then obviously John got a bad bounce off the curb out of turn 1, and that was his race over there. And I was just holding Gresham. He had a really good race. He could keep up, I think, fairly easily with the traffic here. Is pretty strong, and the lap traffic played a huge role. So
I was to say, yeah, no, that's where I wanted to turn my attention, because I made the point on the broadcast that this is a track where the actual width of the tarmac doesn't change all that much, but it feels like depending on where you are on the circuit, it feels like the width fluctuates wildly, and that might just be because of the runoff. But does that change the way you approach lap traffic here? Does it make it more difficult, or maybe easier in a sense compared to some of the other circuits on the surface?
wait, sorry. Here, I have a Discord problem. I couldn't hear what you said.
No problem.
I can somehow hear Gresham talk. I don't know why. It's like I'm still in the waiting room.
Well, that's interesting. Well,
Yeah.
see if we can,
Wait. Let me.
we'll see if we can get the technical issues sorted out very, very briefly with William Levesque, and give him 2 seconds to get him back in, or maybe mute him or something. But we'll see if we can bring. Yes, we'll see if we can sort that out. But how wild it is, I think, that we bring up the lap traffic idea.
All right.
Maybe now we'll see if we can try it
Yes,
again. And
I think it's fixed now.
okay, good. So technical issues aside, I was just saying that I wanted to get back to that point of the lap traffic that you brought up right at the end of your answer, because this is a circuit where, even though the width of the tarmac doesn't change all that much, if at all, the width of the runoff areas here fluctuates wildly. And to me, it makes it seem like this track can get very wide or very narrow in parts, depending on where you are. And so my question for you is, does that characteristic of this place change the way you approach lap traffic when you're passing them? And does it make it more difficult or easier compared to some of the other circuits on the surface?
Well, obviously you have a lot less leeway if something happens. Because if you go off here, you end up in the weeds and in a wall somewhere, most likely. So ideally, you want to be a bit more careful. But again, in this series, there's a lot of different driver skills. So it's always a little bit hard to guess, like what the guy in front is going to do, if he wants to let you pass, or if he doesn't really know what you want to do or whatever. So I think sometimes a bit of a dice roll, and it's really tough here, and other similar tracks where there's no runoffs or anything. So
Fair and valid points all around. As always, before we let you go celebrate one more time, we'll give you the chance to send you thank yous, your shout outs, and let everyone know who makes it happen for you in this number 144 machine.
yeah, obviously our sponsor is SimiCube and V-Racing, and all the guys at NX Racing. And yeah, you guys for the broadcast, and PCA for the series. And yeah, it's probably good that doing this series again, because it's the Cup car, which I may try to qualify for the next Porsche Esport World Championship. We'll see about that. But that's good practice for that, I guess, because I've never driven this car really all that much before.
You're here to get some experience, and you come away with win number 1 of Series 3. So, William, many thanks to you. Cheers to you for your time and your victory tonight. Congratulations to you. We look forward to seeing you at Lime Rock 1 week from tonight.
Cheers.
And there is your race winner, William Levesque, in the number 144 machine, who gets it done over Gresham Wagner in the number 5 machine, who came home second this evening, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Here with Gresham Wagner, finishing second today at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Gresham, you put on a great show for us, battling on until we had some lap traffic issues. Tell us, how confident were you today with this race? Because it looked like you were keeping William Levesque quite honest for the most part.
Yeah, in the beginning, I mean, the top three were pretty even, and I think we were just kind of trying to stay there till the first pit stops. And then I know me and William got separated from the rest of the field there, and when we came out of the pits, it was half a second apart. So I was just trying to hold on to his draft for as long as I could. And once we started getting the traffic, it was the whole thing of give and take, I guess. So we were in the draft some, and then he'd break away, and then I'd catch back up, and we kept on ping pong back and forth for a bit until that incident there, which thankfully didn't cost me all that much. But once the draft was broken, he pretty much had the pace there at the end, and I just kind of settled for second.
Do you think that these GT3 Cup cars will kind of be an equalizer for this season, as we saw compared to last season with the GTE cars? Levesque just purely dominate all season, but here this season, it seems like with these GT3 Cup cars, with the difficulties of them, it seems like we can be able to see more of a battle up towards the front of the field.
For sure. I mean, the GTE car in its own right is hard to drive and get the pace out of, but when you have some of the driver aids, I guess, and a little bit less tire wear, you can really, I guess, run closer to your maximum pace for longer. And William was an expert at doing that last season. Whereas here, I think with the added 15 minutes to the races and maybe, I guess, a little bit more wear on the car, you kind of have to, I don't know, limit your driving per se. So it kind of keeps the field a little bit more packed up because you can't just go 100% every lap. You really have to be clean and consistent. And with tracks like this, with the draft, it's easy to get a pack going there as long as everybody stays consistent and doesn't make mistakes.
All right. Well, before we let you go, anybody you would like to thank before we let you go? Anyone who helps you from week to week get you the opportunity to race here?
Well, I mean, everybody that organized the series, all you guys, last season was a lot of fun, and I was skeptical about this car because it's definitely not one of my favorites, but I'm glad I came back. You guys put on a great series, and I had a lot of fun this week.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at the next round, Gresham, and congratulations on finishing second here at Canadian Tire.
Thank you.
Gresham comes home P2 this evening and manages to come away with another podium finish. And now in our best impression of the driver-led broadcast that you see on Fox so much, we'll have a driver interview a driver, and we'll have Michael Polasek interview Billy Smith, competitors in Series 1 tonight. Michael's in the booth, and Billy comes home at P3 to start off Series number 3.
Yep, PCA Series 1 champion, exceptionally talented Maverick region driver. Tell us about your race and how it went from your end.
Wow. Well, I didn't expect to be talking to you here, Michael. That's for one thing. But yeah, I didn't kind of decided to join last minute with the race. So I knew Michael or William Levesque was in here, and there's a bunch of other talent that had joined since season 1, and so I knew I had my work cut out for me, and so it was quite a bit of work there.
Yes, indeed. It's a very, very competitive grid. How are you feeling before, during, and after the race? Because I know that MoSport's a very tricky track in these cars, but you seem to handle it all right.
Yeah, well, I I got those 15 laps in practice, and I really was not prepared for how oversteery the car was going to get when the fuel really burned off the last few gallons there. Before the race, I was really actually I set my goal for about third place. I figured that was about as high, the goal for this first race. And midway through, I kind of thought I was in trouble as the tires started to burn off. But kind of, I guess, towards the end, figured out how to drive the car again.
So very, very adaptable driver then. You seem to have absolutely no trouble controlling the car and brought the car home safe, clean, and undamaged to a very, very respectable P3. We're now heading to the quick, bumpy, and technical Lime Rock circuit. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I missed the first season actually. So it's going to be very tight. I'm not really. I feel like it's going to be pretty chaotic, to be honest. But it's going to be interesting. It should be pretty exciting.
Indeed. And from this 5-race calendar, what do you think is going to be your favorite race of the season?
To be honest, I don't. I haven't looked at the whole entire schedule. I glanced at it. I can't remember. Is Coda on the schedule? Because that would be my my pick.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be Coda West, and it should be a very exciting race from there.
Yeah, I've not run that part of the course before, so that'll be interesting to learn.
All right, so before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank? Anyone you like to shout out for getting that number 70 machine into P3?
I'd just like to thank the PCA again for putting on the series for the third season now. Thank you guys for the broadcast, and I'd say thanks to my buddy Lee for kind of convincing me to hop on in here.
And we would like to thank you for showing up again for season 3 and putting on a monumental performance tonight. And we look forward to seeing you 1 week later at Lime Rock Park.
All right, thank you guys.
There's Billy Smith, who comes home P3 this evening to start off Series 3. Seems like we're seeing a lot of combinations of the low numbers across the board tonight, but a little bit coming up within the next few weeks. But before we turn our attention to what's going to happen with the PCA, first steps here, let's get final thoughts. We'll burrow into the likes of Taylor Burris's final thoughts first.
Well, of course, with these Porsche GT3 Cup cars, we saw some great racing action throughout the entire race here today. We even saw some possible niches in the armor that we saw from compared to last season with William Levesque, as we saw drivers such as Gresham Wagner and John Koch be able to put on a great battle with Levesque. But in the end, we saw Levesque dominating performance continue on here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. But with this 5 races, no drop weeks, no room for error, we could possibly see a great battle for these 5 races.
Yes, indeed. And this week was really only just a taste of what we're going to get all season long. And as we head to the technical Lime Rock circuit, it's probably going to be more of the same. It's probably going to be more difficult to get around a car at Lime Rock, unlike Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But really, as we saw, composure is definitely a thing that these drivers need to keep in mind, because one small slip up, one wrong input the car doesn't like, one poorly taken bumper curb, and that's pretty much your season over. So it's going to be very interesting to see how risky some of these drivers play it as they try to make up places and make up time. And some of them are probably going to have absolutely nothing to lose going into race 2.
After lead, that John Koch's going to be incredibly aggressive when we head to Lime Rock Park. But before we dig into what's coming up next, Michael Polisek, your thoughts up here being in the booth tonight. I appreciate you went in and talked about what's coming next, but your first thoughts up here in the booth this evening, seeing the race from a different perspective. What'd you think of everything up here tonight?
Well, everything. This is probably going to be the most competitive season yet. We've seen very close and daring moves from the likes of Levesque and Koch holding on for P1, and I think these new rules, new car, short tracks, and this race in particular is probably going to be just a taste of what we're going to see all season long. It's probably going to be a many horse race between Koch, Levesque, Wagner, Billy Smith, and a bunch of others. It's really anyone's guess of what's going to come next time. But for this race was swinging in Koch's favor, and then I think just one lapse of concentration definitely completely broke it. And we're going to see that, I think, a lot throughout the remainder of the season.
And how was your experience up here, first time up in the booth?
And this was definitely a new perspective. It was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it and can't wait to come back for Lime Rock and as well as the rest of the season. And it's a new perspective seeing it from the booth, then on the grid, knowing all these drivers. It's incredible seeing these races play out.
Well, we've been very fortunate to have you up here in the booth tonight, Michael. Thanks so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing everybody back here 1 week from tonight. 9:15 p.m. Eastern, October 25th, right here on the iRacing Esports Network, round 2 of Series 3 of the the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Lime Rock Park, as Michael has said a few times already. We look forward to seeing you all 1 week from tonight for that. But before then, you can join us on our regular home, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, the home of the Podium Esports Network. We'll get back at it on Sunday night with the iRacers Lounge Podcast Oval Series. Class B cars, Class C trucks racing on the same track from Chicagoland Speedway. Cisco knows he's quite happy about that. We'll go to his home turf, 8:30 p.m. Eastern this Sunday night, October 20th. Should be a lot of fun. But before we start jumping into that, guess who managed to just sneak on into the broadcast right before we jump off the end? We need to talk to Colin Chalmers, who put on a show of shows. The winner of the rookie class, the man who comes away with the $50, is the winner of the AL Sim Racing Hard Charger Award. Pretty solid start to Series 3 for you, don't you think? He's so excited he can't even speak. We'll see if we can get Colin on at some point. He's at least working through the mic. I see the flickers coming on, trying to get everything sorted as he tries to work out everything. But we'll get him on here in just a moment. But Taylor Burris, really just impressive. So one of the more impressive runs, I think, tonight outright, given that, you're running up against drivers who have had pro and world championship series licenses. You're running up against drivers who have Class A licenses, who have been around this game for a bit. And Colin Thomas came in and held his own with a lot of the folks in the series.
He most certainly did, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on all season. We may see him possibly crack the top 10 or even crack the top 5 before this season is over with. So Colin Thomas is definitely one of those rookie drivers to watch for as we continue on. Now we're going to a track that I'm pretty sure he might be a little bit familiar with, such as Lime Rock Park, as a rookie driver on the iRacing server. That's one of the first road courses you usually race at.
Hello?
Yes, we've got him this time. Okay.
So, thank you.
he was so worried about it, but we'll repeat the question just to make sure everybody else gets it. But you win the rookie class tonight. You get the Hard Charger Award from AL Sim Racing and the $50. I mean, outside of the overall win, I don't know if you could have had a better start to Series 3, at least from our perspective. So what was the race like from your perspective?
Well, first of all, let me just say thanks for giving me the award and everything. That's really cool. I didn't know that there was such a thing. But the race was really intense at the start. I was bumper to bumper a few times with some people, and you're just trying to make it clean. And I got the passes in, and then, I just calmed myself down and, just tried to run my race. And, unfortunately, I had a little spin out there at the end, but, I kept it together and put it across the line.
You put it across the line. You come up with an 11th place finish. Talk about just the challenge of driving these 911 GT3 Cup cars, especially compared to the 911 RSRs. We figured they're a little bit more trickier, a little bit more in the driver's hands. What's your take on them?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in iRacing with the RSR. I didn't do the Series 2, but yeah, I've really had to tune my brake pedal and really be sure I don't over brake, because it really will lock up on you. But people really complain about the car, but I actually quite like driving this Cup car.
And how much fun was it for you to bring it home for everybody in the Allegheny region and everybody in the Pittsburgh area, you being their representative in the PCA SRS this time around?
Oh, it's great. I'm going to be telling everybody at the club.
Or they'll catch you on YouTube first, and maybe they'll find out about it before you even get the chance to tell them. But two things. First, Colin, before we let you go, who do you need to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Oh, I'd just like to thank my family for tuning in and watching, my girlfriend, Tina, for being supportive.
Me, myself, and I on the Cougar, I suppose, as well. and then I'm either going to make Cisco really mad or really happy. But since there are a few culinary staples between your two cities, given the choice of a Primanti Brothers sandwich or Lou Mamadi's deep dish pizza, which one are you taking?
Permanis all the way.
He is a true Yinzer indeed. Colin, thank you so much for coming on tonight and talking to us. Congratulations on winning both the Hard Charger Award and the rookie class tonight. And we look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight at Lime Rock Park.
Thank you, and great broadcast as always.
Colin Thomas, winner of the rookie class tonight, and just about the last person we're going to talk to. We've heard from Taylor, we've heard from Michael, we told you what's coming up next. So quick reminders, PCA, Lime Rock, next Friday night, 9/15, October 25th, if you're marking a date in your calendars. But before that, this Sunday, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, the iRacers Lounge podcast Oval Series from Chicagoland Speedway. Should be an incredible amount of fun. One last other note to hit before we go. A big thank you to Tanner McCullough and Setups for iRacing for their setups to be used in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 3. And one more other bit that I almost completely forgot about and I feel terrible about. We are going to be broadcasting the iRacing Pro Series. The NASCAR iRacing Pro Series comes to Podium Esports as we find out the final 20 drivers that are going to make the roster for the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series, the pinnacle of stock car competition in iRacing. That broadcast will begin at 8:45 p.m. Eastern from Daytona International Speedway. Should be a lot of fun watching plate racing to open up the season. That will also be on the Podium Esports Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Podium Esports. For everyone at the PCA and the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, who win? Jim Hebbett, Doug Atkinson, Mike Nine, and the PCA Steering Committee. For everybody here at Podium Esports, for DJ Lyon, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, and for everyone who joined us in tonight's broadcast, Michael Polisek, Taylor Burns, Cisco, Scaramuza, and company, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching tonight's season opening broadcast, Series 3 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. We look forward to seeing you maybe Sunday night, maybe Tuesday night, but most definitely right back here on the iRacing Esports Network next Friday night for round 2 from Lime Rock Park.